Yesterday we've been talking about the value range for the skin tones and different keys. So today we're going to practice mixing and applying the halftones which we need to render the skin properly, and we are going to ignore the key because the reference is a low key reference, but we are going to paint high key painting. So we are going to use the tone of the canvas, the value of the tone of the canvas as our background, at least in the beginning, to force ourselves to find proper and working value relationships inside of the skin. Because last week, when we were doing rub-out technique, rub-out practice, the main focus was mostly in the how big areas of dark values are being separated from the light values. So we've been modeling everything starting from the silhouette and simple contrast relationship between the silhouette and the light value of the skin. Today it is different. Today we're going to work with halftones in the face first. So I'm quickly mapping the design, the silhouette of the face, of the head here first. Just remember, today I am going to use Gamsol, so I'm diluting my paint with Gamsol. If you are not using Gamsol and other solvents, just continue using the gel, or just or probably paint without it, without mediums at all. I don't like the distance, this one, because I already see that the head will end too close to the right side of my canvas. So you see, with Gamsol, I'm just erasing it quickly. Another thing to practice is your ability and will to disregard the decision which is not going to work entirely as we want. So in the beginning, I prefer to have such flexibility. So now I want to make the head a bit smaller. Yeah, maybe something like this, and the shadows will be here. So yeah, I think it works much better, and without spending too much time on the blocking, I'm going to jump into the skin tones right away. So I'm quickly just mapping the boundaries of the head with indication of the neck here, and the ear is going to be somewhere there. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so let it dry for a second, just to settle this very quick loose, I don't know, not even the drawing, just something, the bounding area, the bounding shape. Let's mix something, and we need two mixtures. Mixture number one is general average shadow, which we can see on the right of her face. So the light is coming almost from the center. Almost it is slightly shifted from the center line of her head towards I don't know, or maybe it's just central. I'm analyzing the shadow below the nose. It looks very triangular, and with a downward pointing tip of this triangular placed exactly in the philtrum above the lip, we can say that the light is pretty symmetrical. So if we were looking frontally at her face, it will be frontal light. So for us it is 3/4, but the light is shifted, or light is just situated there or near the center, aligned to the center line. What does it mean practically for us? It means that still her left side, right for us, so everything to the right from the center line is brighter slightly than things to the left, despite the shadow to be so close to the lighter halftone. So we're going to turn the form here and also turn the form from opposite side, because we expect that the distant planes are slightly darker than the planes which are next to the nose. We barely see them, but still. So some sort of, imagine the egg with the light coming from the center of the egg. So we will have, if there is no nose and if there are no eye sockets and the muzzle of the mouth, if it is just an egg, the lightest planes, the most perpendicular planes to the light source are going to be here. So we are constantly thinking about the lighter halftones be in the center, and in the center here, but with nose applied, things are more complex, and the shadow visible here, and we don't see the shadow on opposite side because the form is turning. So for that we need mixture like this. Probably we can add more umber, a bit of black, a bit of green, so we'll have some sort of composite brown shadow. I don't want it to be extremely bright, or dark, sorry, so I'm adding the yellow ochre now into the shadow, and it is slightly lighter. It looks a bit too cold because this blue primer is strong, viridian. So I'm adding carefully transparent red oxide into the mixture to make it more neutral. So you see it's now getting this generic, traditional looking brown for the shadow. So we will stick with it for a while. Maybe, yeah, by the look of it, maybe a little more of transparent red oxide. So like that. Okay, this is going to be our shadow. And again, my philosophy means that we don't waste too much time on mixtures. We need to find proper looking generic value for the shadow and for the halftones in the light, and we are going to make adjustments as we go. So this can be, you see, like kind of a pale orange, desaturated light value pale orange can work as the halftone for the face. Just two mixtures for now. We are not discussing the color changes today, but we will start talking about colors next week. So maybe we will touch this subject just a bit. So to start this this painting, to start finding the halftones, what I want to do, I will try to map the shadows as usual, just quickly. First, you see, just like that, shadow, and the hair is going to be darker than the shadow. So with the same mixture but thicker, I am applying it only here at this moment, because I'm not sure about the placement of the ear, I'm not sure about the drawing, so there is no reason to invest into this area at this point. So just dark value to compare my other values with it, to have something to compare with. Now with Comber brush, with this Rosemary Eclipse Comber brush, I am diluting the mixture just with Gamsol at this point. And what I want to do, I'm just applying it right away. So I want the mass of this halftone to be here, to be present already on the canvas, because I need, since I don't have dark value to the left, I cannot compare it. I cannot compare my halftones with dark value. So I need the base first, and this is very important. We need the base, which we are going to change, which we are going to adjust, and we're going to find different planes, because this exercise is also very useful for practicing planes of the head. Because we know that if plane is changing, the value is changing. You see, I'm adding a bit of red now into the mixture which is in between these two pools. You see, I've placed these two initial pools together next to each other because I'm going to blend the mixtures together. So I can drag the dark towards the light and vice versa, finding some sort of halftones which work and look very naturally now, because I see things optically right away. So no guessing, mostly just comparing and picking what works the best at this point. So now with this initial let's call it an egg, some sort of an egg. This looks much darker than that. So we already have something substantial to work on. We know that different value means different plane. So every time the plane is changing, the value must change as well. So we're going to turn the form using at least 4 big values for the halftones. But before we begin, I want to quickly find the glabella bone here, because glabella is the center line. There are so many, it is one of the most important landmarks of the face, probably the most important at all. And since I noticed that there are warmer reflected light inside of this eye socket, inside of this corner, I'm adding just a bit of red into that shadow. Okay, so now I'm just modeling the darks in the eye. You see, I'm not drawing the eye per se, but I'm squinting my eyes and I'm thinking about the dark shapes, and I'm blending the darks now very carefully on top of my light brown mass. It was very thin and diluted with Gamsol. It is why gentle, you see, like very careful and gentle paint application does not smudge it. So this is another thing to consider if your subsequent paint application is blending with the previous layer, with a layer which is with underlying layer. Try to soften your application and try to use less paint in the first layer and even dilute it with something which dries really fast. Because if you are using oil, for example, to increase the flow of the first blocking, the oil will be, it can create a mess because you will pick up the pigment. You see, like right now, it's not difficult to blend over it. It is why my hand is always almost parallel. I mean, the brush is almost parallel now to the surface. So I'm trying to carefully just apply things on top. So now I'm moving the glabella to the left because I see that I need more distance here from the corner of the eye to the eye socket. And the nose will go like this. It will be somewhere here, blending right away. Going back to this, this is 1/4 inch brush. For some reason, they have numbers on other brushes, but these brushes, their sizes are in 1/4 inch. But it's fancy in my opinion, so just 1/4. It's a relatively small one. Okay, the distant eye will be somewhere here, and we know now that we need to expand this eye socket just a bit. Was too much probably now, but wait a second. I need to check it first here. So you see, this is another reason why I don't really want to invest in precise drawing in the beginning when I paint alla prima, because everything is so fluid. And we're going to build it up instead of just feeling like painting by number style. So it is why I prefer the outlines and the silhouette, I prefer them to be not final in the beginning, but flexible and ready to be changed. So now I'm finding the design of the brow here and design of the brow there. I know that I need to move the temple area now. So with this initial stain, I'm just spreading it outwards. You see, adjusting the actual size of the forehead. So this is how we can start work in alla prima as well. No rigid drawing, no rigid construction. Now you see, like the head, the top of the head will be like this. It is why there was no point to make any decisions yet, and the ear is also will be moved to the right. Now I have more understanding of what is going to happen here, and even this part, the jawline, I just want to make it now disappear in some sort of void down below. Doesn't mean that you have to do exactly the same. You can do the drawing and work on top of it, because this exercise is not about the drawing again. It's more about how we train ourselves to work in certain value range in order to paint the skin, even if we have to change the key or the background, or make any decisions which are somehow deviating from observation. So you see, like here, my goal is to build something which is not a copy of what I see. So the reference now and always for me It is just the starting point, the information, the inspiration, but not something which I am obliged to carefully copy. I hope it is not extremely confusing, but even if it is, you will definitely see the benefits of it later with practice. Because I also can just apply the dark values later on top. There is no problems with that. I mean, in the background. The question is, will value range work or not? So our practice today is to be able to paint the halftones independently from the background, the halftones of our focal point. So I'm mixing against something just pale light yellow. I'm using white, I'm using nickel titanium. The pigments are, you probably already recognize them. White, nickel titanium, yellow ochre, transparent red oxide, cadmium red light, alizarin crimson, ivory black, umber, viridian, and king's blue. So now when we have lighter mixture and it is more opaque, I need to apply it on top of that stain, because there was a hair before, and since I was just moving things a little bit to the right and above, it looks darker than I need. So I'm just carefully scumbling in paler light, paler yellow pigment on top. Okay, so let's say we have something here. I see that the outline of the forehead can be slightly narrower. So I'm using my Q-tip to organize it properly, and I'm even erasing it here just a bit. Okay, so I think it's time for me to, yeah, and I also see that now that the eye should be bigger. So I'm just adding more dark here, and more dark there. Some sort of blocking on top of the halftone mass. So the blob comes first, and the halftones, they come later on top. Okay, I have this pale light mixture here, but I want even more of it, so I'm going to mix it now. Two different yellows, white, a bit of king's blue to knock down the yellow, just a bit more white to raise the value. You see, nickel titanium is helping me to maintain the chroma, to keep it, because without it, it will be look really grayish already now. I want slightly warmer halftone for the cheekbones and a bit colder halftone for the lower part of the face. So you see, I'm adding alizarin and cadmium into the mixture to change the value, to make it darker and with more red here, and I'm doing the same but with viridian to lower the value and make it colder in this part. So we have light, colder light, warmer halftone, and colder halftone. Next week we will start talking about this warm and cool relationships, all these changes which we need to implement to make skin look very natural. But now we are just quickly mapping things. So I want to establish the lightest plane here, because the form is turning. Different value means different plane. So this plane here, the frontal plane in the forehead, is bright, and the top plane of the forehead, also near like central top plane, is even brighter because it is facing the light. It is more perpendicular to the light source. The highlight here in the forehead is situated on the meeting of these three main planes: frontal plane, top frontal plane, and the plane which is starting to turn already. But for this exercise, I'm not focused on the highlights, at least at this point. So you see, I'm trying to model the form using just logical steps, logic increments in the halftone arrangements, in the halftone organization. So like darker, slightly lighter, even a bit lighter, and lightest. And from the lightest here, we're going to turn again to the slightly darker. And this initial stain which I've made before is helping me, because it is already almost as it should be there. So you see, I'm painting on top, not on top of the toned canvas, and God forbid I'm not painting on top of the white canvas, because white canvas will just distract me from seeing the values properly. It is why we need to tone the canvas first, or at least to tone it in the area, in this stain of the face, of the light halftones of the face. Let us have a look. The brow will go higher, but it is not needed for construction, so I can paint over it at this point, focusing mostly on the bone structure of the eye socket here and the planes which are facing the light there versus planes which are facing down away from the light source here. So you see, I'm trying to sculpt it using my quick pre-mixes of the halftones, and I also want a bit warmer, darker one, so maybe something here. So you see, this pool is already starting to show different values and different colors which I see on the face. So very, very quickly, the pool of my premixes representing the values, the main values and the main colors, let's say main temperatures which I now see in the face. So technically, your skin tones are here, not there. So if you see them on the palette, everything is good. Try to make sure that you can just pick from the palette the color you need or the value you need. And if you have to mix again or initially, try to mix more than you think you need, and it will improve efficiency. Okay, so now I want to model the planes in this zygomatic arch, and you see there is a shadow, and next to the shadow we will have greenish looking halftone first, as I see it in the reference. And just next to it there will be pinkish halftone, so we will just apply some pink here. So step, step, step. Warm, cool, warm, and cool again. So to make this area not just lighter, but also with a change of the temperature. So you see, before I continue rendering, I want to re-establish the shadow. I want to make shadow even darker now, just a bit, because this one looks as shadow, more or less, looks pretty dark, but we discussed that the shadow, at least in this part, especially in that part, is lighter than the terminator line, than shadow line, the core shadow, because of reflected light. So reflected light, the bouncing light, is making that the rest of the shadow lighter than the core shadow. It is why now I'm just revisiting the core shadow, making sure that it is darker now than the general shadow everywhere else. Here I don't need any kind of edge, so I'm just losing the edge in this part, softening it, blending it together. Since it is a demo, I'm not trying to. Since I'm explaining things, I'm not so concerned about the accuracy of my drawing. But when I practice myself, I paint a bit slower, and I'm really focused on precision of my brush stroke. So hence there are certain, let's say, sacrifices in the accuracy. But again, knowing what our goal is extremely important, and our goal now is to practice use of halftones to turn the form in the most delicate part of portrait painting. So now we have darker shadow. I want to mix even slightly darker and transitional halftone here, yeah, like that. You see, it is very. It is relatively green. It is not extremely green. Although you can push the greens even more. But from the brown of the core shadow of Terminator line, I shift to the kind of a greenish gray of the transitional halftone, and this halftone, which is already lighter than transitional because the form is turning towards the light, it shows local color. In this case, it is pink. So something like that. Now you see, like we have this band, we have this band, and we have this band. Each one is representing different planes, and we are showing that planes are different, not just with change of value, but also with change of temperature just a bit. At this point, we are just doing it, and next week we will dive deeper into the concept. But I'm sure many are aware already, so just let's focus on this, on how different planes are changing with different values. So now the next step here is making this value lighter. Because here are the planes which we discussed before, the planes which are most perpendicular to the light source. So I am applying now almost, you see, like white mixed with a bit of yellows. So I'm just pushing now the values quite drastically using pale yellows. But the side of the nose is darker, of course. We can see it clearly, but also there is a certain pink there. So I'm picking up this pinkish orange mixture from this side, and I'm applying it here. And now we have this the landscape of the planes already established. You see, I'm not even touching the distant part, although we can just make it a bit lighter here. You see, just to the left from the nose, next to the nose, we're just making it slightly lighter. It helps to fix the drawing of the nose, for example, and at the same time it is separating the top plane of the nose from that distant plane of the face, and it is helping to turn the form on the distant side as well. So I'm just revisiting the top plane of the nose again, and now we have this this simple distribution of planes and values. Notice I haven't been painting the mouth because it will take a lot of time, and it is not our focus. We are using this painting, this head and this reference to practice turning of the form. So mostly it is the cheekbone area and the forehead, but feel free to continue painting, and we will also play with it next week, the same as our previous one. So if you can keep it, keep this one as well. The size, by the way, is 9 by 12, but it is absolutely not important. It can be bigger, can be smaller, it doesn't really matter. So now I want to finalize that turning of the form on opposite side. You see, no Gamsol anymore. Gamsol was only in the very beginning for me to be sure that this initial stain is thin, quickly applied, and dries as fast as possible, because it is much easier to paint on top when your first stain, your first initial paint application is already settling very fast. So we need lean mediums also for that. Not just to keep things organized with thickness, but also to make sure that even in alla prima, the first application, the first stain will dry right away. So the form is turning. I will probably want to add more light in the forehead, because forehead is quite big. It is a big area, and it is facing the light, perpendicular to the light source, and it is also nearest planes of the skin, nearest to the light source. So logically, they should be lighter than the chin, for example. And photographs, they don't show it very often. Sometimes, at least when I make photos, I try to make them in the way, and also in post-production, I make them to resemble this this structure, this relationships with the light, as good as I can make them. But it is better to, when we paint from life, we just have to squint, and we will see that the light here is stronger than the light there. I mean, the highlights or the lightest planes, they are still they are more potent than on top than on the bottom of the structure, which is again very logical in my opinion. Okay, so I'm adding a bit of pink here now, just to turn the form again, and I'm blending the it with the previous layer, with the next layer, because it is rather rounded part. So there is a barrel logic, cylindrical logic. I'm also dragging the shadow just a bit here to connect halftones better. So basically, this is the first blocking which you for La Prima painting, which can be used as a start for, so we can continue. Let's say we can spend 3 hours painting the hair, the mouth. So I will spend about 1 hour modeling the lower part of the face. It is why I'm not touching it now, because I would rather make sure that upper part and middle part is already working. So now, before we call this exercise finished, I need to push the temperatures in the extreme lights. So I need a bit of titanium white for that. I pick up white, I apply it here into my pool, and I'm also adding the King's Blue. So you see the mixture is not as bright as it was with white, but it is significantly colder. And you can see how does it look on this pool. The value is the same, almost the same, but temperature makes this value look way brighter than yellow one, because of the temperature shift. So this is another way of showing different plane in the light, because if I push the values now lighter, I will start losing the color. So instead of mixing it with more white, trying to paint lighter, I'm creating an illusion of change of the plane by painting the lightest plane colder, especially when it is juxtaposed with more orange and more yellow looking shape next to it. So something like this can be, and is, I believe, good foundation for rendering the skin without relying on the background in our setup or in our reference. So my recommendation is to practice using photograph as just database of information without trying to copy it. Because you see, this is not the copy. I'm not even trying to match the values or something. I'm just looking at the photograph and I'm trying to analyze which planes are more perpendicular to the light source, and how values are changing and how colors can help me in order to show that the planes are changing. Finally, the highlights in the nose, they are not final, they're not, it is not commitment yet, but oftentimes I just place the highlights in the nose right away, because here the highlight is showing us the changes of the planes. So the meeting of top plane and the side planes, let's say, of the nose is marked by the highlight. So this highlight is just reminding me about the structure of the nose, and I can start comparing it with my reference in order, if I need to paint the nose more accurately. And also I can just step back now to see that nose is showing this illusion of something which is sticking out of the face and casting the shadow, and this part alone is creating depth in painting where there are no actual shadows or no actual dark values at this point. So this shadow, this occlusion was probably not the bad idea per se, but probably too dark. So I just now I want to mitigate it with some additional blending here. And yeah, of course we can just play a little bit with our soft brushes just to model things and to soften the edges, to leave it to dry. So this is the end of this exercise. Just to test how values of the skin look like compared with shadows. Let me pick the brush, maybe this one. Yeah, I want to mix dark brown for the hair. So again, Viridian mixed with transparent red oxide with a bit of black, just to make sure that it is not extremely red. Something like this, mixing a bit with a pool of greenish halftone. So let us just place it here. So you see exactly the same thing as we discussed yesterday. Dark value from outside of the skin, something which is darker than the skin generally, to see things in comparison. And just for later indication of the hair, yeah, something like that. And now I start to see that the skin is not just turning, the face is not just turning, I mean three-dimensionally. I see that skin is starting to show this glowing effect, the luminosity. And this luminosity can be achieved by changing and shifting the temperatures in the changes of the main planes. So once again, different plane is different value, and different value means different color all the time. So yeah, something like this, just to see how will it work. Maybe the forehead can be a bit smaller now. So you see, always back and forth. But with the soft brushes, and when there is no commitment yet, it is just a merrymaking, just to move the edge higher or lower if we need to. And also just a bit of adjustment here. Something like that. So thanks for watching. Try to do something similar. You can continue with the mouth. There is no limitations, but I hope the general idea is clear here. For the mouth is exactly the same, but it is way more complex because the shapes are much smaller. As usual, the most important contribution to three-dimensionality is happening here in the cheekbone structure and how cheekbone structures are being related to the nose. So yeah, this is it.